A warm welcome to my first Kriegsspiel battle report. Today we will be covering the fourth game in the print and play series hosted by Umpire Lafondio's Salta 1813. This game was played on October 6th of 2025. Before we begin, perhaps a few words on what is Kriegsspiel. Kriegsspiel is a double-blind strategy game where, instead of moving pieces around a board, a player will give orders to an umpire, verbally or in writing, instead. Only the umpire has a map with all units and their positions. The player themselves will still have a map containing the positions of their own forces and the units of the enemy that he knows about, but the player only receives limited knowledge through reports by the umpire. Decisions are then made based on those reports in dispatches or messages by other players. In the bottom you can see an example report. In this case you see 4 red arrows. The leftmost arrows represent 2 squadrons of cavalry each, which have advanced to cover the infantry columns behind them and to gather intelligence on blue concentrations. The rightmost red arrows represent 2 columns of red infantry. The 3 blue dots each represent a concentration of blue forces. The rightmost blue dots represents a force of cavalry, about 500 saddles strong, with the leftmost blue circles each representing an infantry formation of as of yet unknown size. Before we begin, I will quickly introduce the teams and the players. On the blue team, or the Patriots, we have myself filling the role of General Belgrano, taking the role of CIC, and my teammate Gareth. On the red team, or the Royalists of the Spanish Empire, we have Soldier Steve taking the role of General Tristan, and in the umpires we have Umpire Lafondios. Are numerically superior to the red or royalist forces, and we expect to meet the royalist forces under a General Tristan near the town of Salta in Peru. Historically, this battle was fought on the 20th of January 1813. The blue order of battle contains 2 brigades. First brigade containing 5 line infantry battalions, 1 light infantry battalion and 3 artillery batteries of 3 guns each, commanded by Colonel Gareth, and the second brigade containing 8 squadrons of cavalry of 100 saddles each, commanded by General Belgrano. Turn 0, deployment. On the left side you can see a picture of my physical map and pieces of how I envisioned the deployment of the blue forces. To the front and the right of the column you can see the cavalry deployed in a scouting/screening position to cover the advance of the infantry column. On the right you can see our rough position on the map, approaching Salta from the north. On turn 1, my cavalry on the road immediately comes into contact with Royalist cavalry of about 200 saddles on the road just north of Salta, while the rightmost cavalry encounters another concentration of Royalist cavalry just west of the river. On turn 2, things have slightly progressed. As you can see, my cavalry on the road has pushed the Royalist cavalry back to Salta, and my cavalry in the east has also pushed the Royalist force back across the river. It is at this point that my scouts, or well, the screening cavalry, reports a concentration of about 500 infantry supported by artillery in the mountains east of Salta. The Patriot infantry has at this point deployed into line or battle formation north of Salta, expecting this to be the main area of engagement. By 1100, however, it has become very clear that the Royalist forces have in fact taken up a strong defensive position on the hills east of Salta. The Royalist horse that were previously in Salta have attempted to flee and have made their way about halfway to the rest of their forces. I have, in the last turn, dispatched horses, which you can see marked by the 2 blue arrows just north of the red circle, to pursue and harass them, if not outright catch and destroy them. I have at this point dispatched a total of 4 squadrons to go after about 2 squadrons worth of cavalry. Then the next turn you can see that my cavalry was in fact successful at chasing down the Royalist horse and has caught them in battle just south of the river fork. The Royalist horse are driven off with casualties and flee the field of battle, being overwhelmed by a force of horsemen near twice their size. Unfortunately for me, some of my horsemen with their blood up decide to chase the enemy horse from the field, leaving me with a loss of about 1 or 2 squadrons. You can also see to the left of the map that the Patriot infantry has moved into column again and is approaching the position of the Royalists, with Salta having been found to be completely empty. On turn 5 of 1300, the Patriot infantry has begun to deploy before the river. The Royalists have moved up the remainder of their cavalry, but my cavalry on the very north of our line is in position to screen the infantry and protect them from any sort of adventurous cavalry engagement. It is now 1400. The Patriot infantry is deployed and ready for battle. The Royalist horse still persists on the east side of the river. However, I have by now moved about 2 squadrons of cavalry onto the reverse slope of the hill east of Salta in an attempt to hide them and hope that the enemy commander, Soldier Steve, will forget about them. 1500. Patriot infantry supported by artillery has crossed the river and begun assaulting the hill position. It is at this point important to note that both sides have artillery. However, the Patriot artillery was focused onto the southern push, whereas the Royalist artillery mainly focused on halting the northern advance. You cannot see it on this screenshot, however my horse in the north have also crossed the river. My horse on the reverse slope remain in reserves. Turn 9, 1600 hours. The game is called after a coordinated assault by my horse on the north and the remainder of the Patriot infantry, as well as me having brought up the hidden cavalry squadrons, which, together with the majority of the infantry, has dislodged the Royalist infantry from the hilltop. A quick run through of the AAR. On the leftmost picture you can see the initial dispositions as on the Empire map. You can see our marching column screened by cavalry, and you can also see that Soldier Steve, as the red CIC, has sent out his own cavalry to attempt to determine our concentration of force. You can also see that despite being about equal in number in infantry and having a slight supremacy in artillery, the Patriot force actually enjoy a significant advantage in horsemen, having nearly double the amount of the Royalists. On the middle picture you can see the status at about 1400 hours. You can see the Royalist horse have advanced to the river, being faced by the majority of my own cavalry in the north. On the south of the line you can see the infantry coalescing into a sizable push force, and you can also in the very south see the elements of my horse which have not chased the Royalist horse off the table. The rightmost picture is taken at about 1500 hours. My Patriot cavalry in the north has crossed the river and has slightly driven back the infantry. The cannon of the Royalists in the center have stopped the Patriot advance across the river, which consists of 2 infantry battalions, but the Patriot artillery in the south has successfully permitted the Patriot infantry in the south to cross the river and attack. You can also see that Soldier Steve has shifted his 2 remaining squadrons of cavalry to the south, which will become important one turn later when they will be in position to break the momentum of my hidden cavalry's charge. The historical Battle of Salta, as you can see, was fought in the immediate vicinity of the town of Salta, with the Patriot cavalry overwhelming their Royalist counterparts and flanking the Royalist line, causing a break. This is the end of the video. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and also check out the YouTube channel of Empire Lafondios. Have a nice day and happy wargaming.